What's going on, guys? Jeff back with another video. Well, today we're going to talk about my reproduction Henshin Cyborg. This is a Mazinger Z version. These were produced in, I believe, in 2004. They were exact reproductions of the old Takara Henshin Cyborg figures. I was really happy to get this figure. I've been wanting a Takara Henshin Cyborg for a long time, but I didn't really want to deal out the cash for a vintage figure. So I did some searching. I've seen the Neo Henshins. I really didn't like those too well. This actually presented itself to me on eBay one day, and I negotiated the price with the person in Japan and got it. However, this figure rounds out my terrible February. I love the figure, but he had some issues when I got him out of the package. February is not a great month for me. If you saw my Super Joe restoration video, it just February was a really terrible month in a lot of ways. Not just collecting, but we're going to take this guy back to the shop. We're going to pop him out of the box. I'm going to do a nice thorough review of him, and you can decide whether you'd like to purchase one of these for your collection. I think one of the things that isn't brought up enough when talking about G.I. Joe or the license deals Hasbro did with their figures around the globe. You know, you had the legendary UK company Palitoys, which gave us Action Man. Germany had Guyper Man. And of course, you know, Falcon from Brazil, which has quite the cult following. One of my favorite versions of the G.I. Joe license, or rather a reinvention of the figure platform, was by Takara Company. In the wake of the Second World War, Japan was in the midst of a rebuild, and from the ashes, they had a sci-fi revolution. We can thank Japan for giant monsters, giant robots, and a myriad of other weird and cool in between. Japan laid the foundation, or a lot of the iconic toy lines we have today. And one of those companies, Takara, helped kickstart the future of the Japanese toy invasion by taking the original G.I. Joe platform and creating the Henshin Cyborg line of 12-inch figures. Brief history: in 1971, Takara originally marketed G.I. Joe under the name Combat Joe, and that figure eventually evolved into more than a military figure by making available a number of removable costumes for various Japanese sci-fi television characters at the time, such as Ultraman and Kamen Rider. Eventually, Takara went a step further, and they used the original molds and re-engineered them into an entirely new line called the Henshin Cyborg. The line would eventually expand into several figures and accessories over the span of its life. In 2003, Takara did a run of reproduction figures in the vein of the original Henshins from the 1970s. These are different from the Neo Henshins that we see a lot of. Anyways, in 2001, Takara did a run of Henshin Cyborg 1 figures, with the first figure as the Ultraman figure. So it came with the original molds of the Takara Henshin Cyborg 1 with an Ultraman costume. They go on to do a few more figures with costumes, and the one we're going to review today is the Mazinger Z version. Now, I love Mazinger Z. It's one of my favorite Japanese robots. I have a ton of them. I collect them whenever I can find one that's on the cheap. But today we're going to take a deep dive into this particular figure and do a review of him. And I got him for about $150 shipped from Japan. And at the end of this, I'll post some links in the description for a brief history of the Henshin Cyborg figures, as well as this figure here. Okay, so the box is really nice. It's a cool reproduction. It shows the original Henshin figure. I guess it's not the original Henshin figure. That's kind of the Henshin figure that's in here. It's all in Japanese. Unfortunately, I don't speak Japanese. I wish I did. But you can see there's old Henshin artwork on the back, I believe, from the original Takara run of the early 70s. It's a nice box. It's got a magnetic piece that holds it in the flap in place. And it kind of shows what all comes with the Henshin figure. One of the coolest things about this box is on the inside, there's a neat robot, or I guess machine type artwork. I'm thinking about actually pulling that out at some point and maybe incorporating that into a G.I. Joe diorama build. So I think that's really cool. I just want to share that with you guys. So also included was this cool Henshin booklet. And I believe just going through the pages, it gives the history of Henshin Cyborgs throughout the years. Again, like I said, I don't speak Japanese, and I wish I did. Side note, I asked my wife one night if she could have any superpower, what would it be? And she said the ability to speak every language. It's a well thought out superpower. I would have never picked that, but then again, she's a little smarter than me. So, but anyways, this is a cool little booklet, and you can see here's the figure we're reviewing today. This is the Mazinga version, and it's a really cool little book. I think this is a nice little inclusion into this figure. The figure also came with, again, a full Mazinga outfit. I haven't removed it from the plastic, so you have his shoulder pauldron, helmet, his crotch guard, I guess you could call it. He also came with a couple different gauntlet variations for the fist, and then 2 fist hands and 2 kind of gripping hands. So it came with 2 additional hand variations as well as an additional gauntlet variation. Now, before we really get started reviewing him, I'll go ahead and address the issue I had with the figure. He came with these. Let me put these down. He came with these 2 boots on, okay? So these were the boots that slip over his feet. And these boots were wrapped in his legs were wrapped in a plastic material, and the problem was when you had that in there for a long period of time as kind of like a bond breaker, the plastics kind of the polymers in the plastics had a bad reaction, I think, and I don't know if you can see it real well on camera, but it melted his legs a little bit. So the plastic kind of deformed on the legs. I noticed it when I tried to take the boots off. It felt like I didn't even know if I could take the boots off because it was so tight, but I got them off, and that was the problem. I thought it did it to the feet as well, and it kind of did. It kind of deformed the feet a little bit too. So I wasn't very happy about it, but this was when I got this figure. It was about the same time I had the Super Joe mishap, so I'm just going to deal with it. I don't know what I'm going to do as far as fixing it. I thought about buying a Cybernetic Explorer body off Cotswold and swapping out the legs if that'll work, but I'm not sure if the pegs will take. So that was the only downside of this figure, and I'll get that out of the way now. So if you are interested in one of these, I would definitely keep that in mind, because these were made 20 years ago, and if they've been in storage for a long time, you could have those issues with the polymers and the different plastics not playing well with one another, which we see that sometimes in a lot of different plastics and whatnot. So I actually emailed the guy that I bought it from. He's a really nice and accommodating person. I just let him know what happened, and he might want to check the other ones that he has for sale, because there's people out there who probably aren't going to be as nice as me about it. So anyways, just wanted to talk about that right off the bat. And that's the only problem with this figure as far as something that was wrong with it when I got it. So anyways, moving on. The figure stands about 11.5 inches tall, like your typical G.I. Joe style classic body. He has a really soft gummy head, which pops off to reveal the Henshin brain. I won't take it off for this video. I think all you guys who are familiar with the Henshin Cyborgs know what that is. He's got the cool internal workings of the robot and just the clear plastic body, synonymous with the Henshin Cyborgs. The arms pop out. Now the problem I found with these hands, as well as the feet and the legs, the grommets that hold everything together don't do a very good job of staying tight in there. So they don't really pop like your normal G.I. Joe joints. They're just glorified pegs. Same thing with the feet. They're a little bit better than the hands, but they pop out too. And when you try to take him apart, it's really easy. I guess that's a plus if you wanted to take the figure apart. The elastic's pretty tight. It's been sitting for a long time, so you know there's going to be a little bit of play in that elastic, which that's also one of the unfortunate things with these figures is, you know, I don't know how you would ever restring them without really doing some significant damage to the body or taking a chance to. But yeah, you can see the inner workings of the back here. It does have screws that you're able to take him apart if you did restring him, so that's a positive. So yeah, I think he's a cool figure. The feet joints, I will also tell you, they're very loose. So he won't stand on his own very well if you're wanting to pose him and stuff. That's another thing that I found with him trying to stand him up on my desk. You know, he tends to like do that fall forward. So you got to take some time and effort to keep him standing upright, which is another downside to this figure as far as, you know, displayability goes. Well, I mean, what I plan on doing with this figure, I'm not going to display him in his Mazinga outfit. I never really intended on doing that anyway. I just found the Mazinga version is the only reason I bought it. What I usually plan on doing with figures like this when I get them is I want to incorporate them into my adventure team or a story at some point in time, which is exactly what I'm going to do with this guy. I'm excited to have him. He's a cool figure. I have found some vintage Takara Henshin Cyborg figures, and they're roughly the same price, actually. They're used. This is new. So, I don't know. It just really depends on what you want. If you're a vintage collector, probably go for one of the vintage ones. But if you kind of just wanted something unique to add to your collection, this is a figure I would suggest taking a chance on. I'll post a link to the eBay site that has these. They just have the Mazinga version. So just be aware of the plastic issue with the legs. Obviously, that's something that a lot of people might be turned off by. Nobody wants to spend, I think I spent around $140, $150 shipped from Japan for this figure, which is a little bit of a stretch considering, you know, the problems with the legs. And I totally get anybody who wouldn't want to take that chance. I probably wouldn't want to either, but I'm just trying to justify to myself, you know, keeping this guy, which I'm definitely going to. He's going to join my adventure team, and I've already got a story planned for him this fall, or summer, fall. But as far as reproduction figures go, it's a good one. I mean, I would definitely not overpay for this figure. So if you do see one, I would totally try to negotiate a fair price. And if you do see one, definitely ask the seller about the damage to the legs. Because I have this weird feeling that this is common on all these figures that have been stored. Because this was mint in package. So I got a really sneaking suspicion that this probably is common with this figure. But I could be wrong. I mean, that could be my bad luck. Like I said, I got this guy around the same time that my Super Joe disaster was going on, so maybe I just ran into one of those waves of bad luck. But I like the figure. The biggest problem I see right now is it makes me want to buy more, which is never a good thing. I do plan on getting a Neo Henshin at some point in time. The prices of those have really gone up, so I probably need to jump on that wagon before it gets to be silly as far as prices go. And I wouldn't mind, if the price was right, getting me a vintage Neo Henshin as well. But that's a completely different subject matter. We're talking about this guy today. So other than the damage to the plastic on the legs that I discussed right off the bat, the loose joints, it's kind of a problem, but I think we see that a lot in a lot of these figures that we buy that have this kind of design, G.I. Joe classic foot design. The loose pegs in the arms, and possibly, you know, you could get some loose elastic. But another weird thing is this material, the vinyl, or I'm not sure what the head's made out of, like a whatever the plastic polymer that this head's made out of. It has a tendency to build a film up. So, you know, materials over time, everything degrades. It doesn't matter what it is, nothing lasts forever. Regardless of what anybody tells you, I know everything breaks down over time. The oils and everything eventually just break down. So one of my concerns is, however I store him, I need to really take care to store him properly so this head doesn't go bad on me. So that's another thing just to think of when you think about this figure. But other than that, it's not a bad figure. I'm glad I bought him now. I'm going to definitely use him for something. I might have overpaid for a glorified prop. But sometimes, you know, gunfighters get shot. Anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed this review of this figure. I think it's a great figure. Anyways, like and subscribe to the page, of course. Turn on the notifications icon. I try to have videos coming up every week. And check the comments section out for a few links describing the history of the Henshins, links to buying this guy. And I hope you guys are doing great out there. So cheers.